Welcome to Green Talk by Green Care Solutions on KCAA, NBC Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and YouTube. Today we have the hilarious Tom Green, one of my favorites. I'm your host, Be Real. We're practicing social distancing since we're all quarantined here in California. I'm your host, Be Real, but here are my co-hosts.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Angela Mazzanti here.
And I'm Yenitza Munoz.
Now, Green Talk is a cannabis educational and a pop culture program. You must be 21 years of age to watch or listen, and NBC has been deemed an essential business. Now, we're not doctors, but Green Care Solutions has doctors for you. Feel free to give us a call for any of your Green Care Solutions needs at 951-609-4071.
Yes, and also this show is brought to you by MJ.com. So MJ.com is an online destination platform for cannabis professionals. If you guys want to learn anything about the cannabis industry, also connect with other people, go to their website, MJ.com. I have it written down here at the bottom of the screen. Also, check out Jonathan from JonathanSellsBeachHomes.com. Give him a call at 310-938-1504. His social media is listed also here below. And Be Real, and also Tom, if you guys are interested in getting your cars wrapped, I have Exotic Car Wraps. They're located near Be Real Studio in downtown Los Angeles. They wrap cars from Mercedes, BMWs, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, everything. So it's pretty cool stuff that they do. Their website is exoticcarwraps.com.
Wow. Could they wrap my 1986 Nissan Sentra?
Yes, they can. That'd be awesome.
1969 Volkswagen bus.
Yes.
Anyway, welcome.
Man, what's up? How are you?
Welcome to the show, brother man. And I want to offer you congratulations because, you know, we were just talking about it right before we started. You have recently become a U.S. citizen. You have dual citizenship, and I applaud you for that.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I've been living in LA for about 20 years now. Came down here when my show was on MTV, and figured it was time to start taking part in the political process, and also not to talk politics, but also just I just thought it would be a fun time to become an American. So yeah, I remember seeing Cypress Hill perform in Toronto at the Opera House in 1991, and it was the most incredible show. And it was right when your record came out, and Toronto was Toronto's got such a hip hop culture there. I don't know if that was the first time you'd been to Toronto, or if you'd been there a few times before that, and if you guys were surprised by how hyped that show was. But that was crazy. I think you were playing with Chubb Rock.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah.
Memory. I remember that. Yeah. That was actually our first time there, and I believe we were supporting Chubb Rock on that gig because he was out before us, and he had I don't know if it was the record "Treat Me Right" or something like that. That was the big hit for him at the time, but we were supporting him on that show.
Yeah,
and it was like you said, it was an energy charged show for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's so weird how time can go by, so much time can go by, and I can remember being at that show, and that show it happened last week for me, because it was for me it was, I don't know how much I've told you or about my childhood hip hop dreams. Okay, but I was making beats, and we had this rap group in Ottawa, and we just gotten this little record deal in Canada. We were down in Toronto recording right when that happened. Your record had just come out. And that's what we were listening to, as we were listening to you guys, and couldn't believe we were at your show. It was incredible. So,
hey, that just sort of speaks to what's happening now that we're all quarantined, and we don't know when some of these shows are going to come back for a lot of us that are still functioning artists. I mean, but I think it's an important part to experience the music live, because it gives you those memories where you're there with your group of friends and connecting to whatever the music is from the artist playing and stuff like that. And I think when you step away from it for as long as we've had to now, you sort of miss that. And I think people are going to be very hungry and more appreciative of the live shows that come forth after this. For many of us,
it's I'm going through the same thing, because for the last 10 years or so, I've been on the road doing stand up pretty much full time, and So I'm used to being out every weekend in a different city, and just similar to what it's like for you guys on the road all the time, and to not have that adrenaline rush every weekend of that energy is kind of there's a withdrawal from that a little bit.
Yeah, so and we feed off of that. That's why there's that withdrawal.
That's why I'm here making beats in my studio all the time. And I've got my MPC fired up. I'm making my beats to keep myself from losing my mind.
But I'll say this: you've been a step ahead of the game in terms of this thing we call creating content. Because I mean, you've been doing your show for many years, based off of like an internet show. Before people were calling them podcasts and stuff like that. So you were I think more prepared than most to work from home, because most of the broadcast, if not all of them, are from your home, right?
Yeah. So I was doing this web show back in the early 2000s here at my house, and I did it for probably about 6 or 7 years. And it was like before it was called podcasting. It was more of a TV show. It was video only. I mean, it had audio, but we weren't sending it out to the podcast audio. It was just like to my website kind of thing. And I sort of stopped doing that around 2010 and took off and did a lot of touring. But when the quarantine happened, the pandemic that we're in right now, it's every once in a while I have to remind myself, the quarantine, it's just become like a normal thing to talk about. When the quarantine happened, the pandemic that we're in right now, be real. When that happened, I went out to my garage and I just started digging through all these boxes of equipment. I pulled out all this equipment in the last 2 months here. I've just been rebuilding my little studio, and I've been podcasting again, and I relaunched my podcast about a month ago, so I'm having a good time with it.
I love that you started podcasting way before it was a thing, by the way. It's just so amazing that you had this talk show from your house. And you had Joe Rogan on when Joe Rogan is now considered like one of the pioneers in podcasting, and then you were recently on his podcast as well. So it's like everything kind of
full circle right there. Yes.
I'll say like about Joe Rogan, like he did the coolest thing that I think I've ever seen anybody do. To me personally, I thought it was one of the coolest thing. I did this show up here with him. He was one of the early guests on the show back in 2007. And I was sitting here in my house about a month ago, bored, right? Because we're in a pandemic. I started going through all my hard drives. I found this clip of Joe, and we were talking about the future of the internet and web broadcasting. And he said a bunch of stuff that was really kind of mind-blowing because of what he's done with his podcast. So I cut a little clip and I put it up, and I just kind of thanked him. Anyways, he saw the clip. I've been on his show before, but it's been a few years. But he invited me back on his show last week, and he couldn't have been, he just kind of totally shouted out all that stuff and all those early things that I was doing. I just thought it was kind of the coolest thing that he did that, because he was pretty effusive with his praise for the old web show, and he's here not sitting on top right now, got the #1 show on the internet, and he didn't have to do that. So I thought that was pretty amazing. Yeah,
it's a trip to see what he's done in that lane that was actually pioneered by you. It's amazing, but it's good to see that you're getting back in the game, and seeing all your equipment there makes me miss the fact that I did not put my home studio together like I've had in my previous homes. I always had a place to work at home. I have a private studio, but that's downtown. Like normally I would have things in my house so that I could make beats. I'd have my MPC, I have my turntables here, but seeing all that stuff makes me want to put my home studio back together.
Let me just show you the studio real quick. I'll try to describe it for the radio audience, just so you can kind of see. I've got my Moog synths here.
Nice.
Korg synth. But this is my new toy that I love. It's this MPC. My new MPC X, which is like kind of the updated, version. But, and I can just throw some beats together here. But, I love it, man. It's like...
All right. So, okay.
Nice.
You're super locked in. You could totally work.
Yeah, I got my speakers. I got.
Whoa,
I got
what are
these,
those mannequins?
I got these club speakers. I got masks. I got crazy masks here that are scary, and I got my lights set up as well. So, and here, right here, Be Real, check this out. I did have a #1 song once on Total Request Live for a week. It was the Bum Bum song.
Yes, I remember
and
that.
And it was, they gave me this. They put me in the retirement home because MTV wanted it off the air so bad. They forced me to take it off the air and retire it after 1 week. But that's the Bum Bum song. And you may remember Eminem rapped about the Bum Bum song, and Slim Shady, he said, I probably should speed this up for that. He said, I just want to go on TV and let loose, but I can't. But it's cool for Tom Green to hump a dead moose, right? Remember he said that? So.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Hey, did it trip you out that the biggest, rap artist in the world referenced you in a song?
Yeah, first of all, it was crazy because, I didn't know that it was going to happen. I was driving in LA, and I'd only been living in LA for 6 months or something like that. The show was in New York for the first year. We went from Canada to New York and then here. And when Eminem raps your name in a song, says, I just want to go on TV and let loose, but I can't, but it's cool for Tom Green to hump a dead moose. My bum is on your lips. My bum is on your lips, right? Which is from the Bum Bum song. So it was a fairly significant chunk of Bum Bum song related. So I heard that and I'm like, whoa, what's he saying? And it was pretty cool. At the time, I think that was only his second song, really. His first one was My Name Is, and then was that the first or the second track? I think it was his second single. So yeah. He wasn't this massive, he was huge. He was on MTV, but he wasn't this.
He was on his way. He was on his way at that point.
Yeah, you knew it was, and I was stoked on it because, I would always sort of, before my show, I'd always been sort of trying to do some goofy rap and stuff. And here came along another funny white rapper who was, he definitely was, certainly was a lot better rapper than I ever was, but it was kind of fun to see that,
Hey, you're 2 for 2. You got shout outs by Joe Rogan.
Let me use that song in a movie, in my movie Freddie Got Fingered. So we can talk about that another time. But he doesn't normally license his music out to people. So that was pretty cool.
I would love to see Be Real and yourself do something, a video. I would love a song. A song. It'll go viral. That'd be awesome.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll send some of my beats over. Well, it's really cool, I'm looking forward to having you call into my podcast too. Be Real, if you'd
yes, sir.
give me the honor of calling in, that would be amazing. I just interviewed MC Search recently from Third Base, and I'm sure you guys probably know each other. I would bet, but But it was funny after I didn't really know Search too well, but after the interview, I sent him a beat and I kind of threw a rap down on it, and I asked him to throw a rap on it, and he sent a rap back. So I got a track with Third Base now, so that's pretty cool.
Right on, man. Yeah, he's actually, Third Base was one of the first groups that we opened for when we went on our first tour. It was a promotional tour for us and this rapper named Tim Dog. I'm sure you remember that guy. Yeah, and we were basically support for Third Base. So we were, basically following them around on tour, opening for Third Base. So we got to know those guys. Actually, really cool dudes. MC Search is a really nice guy. Oh yeah. He's doing a podcast now too, and everyone's kind of lost. So many people now are really. It's funny now because I know you've been doing your show for so long on the internet. You were sort of basically right up there at the early stages of this too, right? You start the whole TV studio, and I've been watching since you started doing it. And do you find it funny now how everybody's doing it? All of a sudden, because you've been doing it for years and years and years, and all of a sudden everybody with a phone has a talk show now, right? It's like everybody's Instagram is a talk show now. And it's like in hip hop, right? When we were one of the first that were advocating cannabis, at first it was taboo and there wasn't that many hip hop groups talking about it. But then when we started gaining some success and momentum, and then, High Times puts us on the cover, and now we're considered the spokesperson for cannabis in hip hop, and we're having this crazy success. A lot of people came and started talking about marijuana, which was cool because, the more awareness and the more you hear about it, people start, getting used to it, and it normalizes. But we saw that in the cannabis space, wow, where'd all these people before that would not talk about cannabis or admit to using it? Now they're all in. Yeah. And it's the same with podcasting, right? It's like you saw who was in the beginning, who were the original players, the pioneers in the space, and other people didn't want anything to do with it because, let's face it, a lot of people aren't personable like that. They don't want to be vulnerable, and they don't like interviewing other people. And that was something that I had to get around because I never liked doing interviews, and I couldn't imagine myself interviewing someone because I don't like doing it. Yeah. So I had to get in a space where I was more having a conversation with the peer than, asking them questions and doing that same sort of thing that I had to deal with coming up as an artist and being asked these some were lame questions, some were awkward questions, some seemed like it came out of a goddamn playbook that a lot of these journalists learn from, coming out of college, like the same 10 questions. And that's what would bother me. So, I tried to make it a conversation, and, as anything, when you get in early and you see a bunch of people coming in after, you're like, oh, now they want to come in because it's the popular thing to do. But every artist gets antsy and they want to do something. And the easiest thing you can do if you can't make music, if you don't have that Tom Green studio at home, the one thing you could do is talk.
And also podcasting, I think it became such a huge thing because people were tired of that whole someone telling you what to do, another producer or a company telling you what to say and do. And I feel like that's probably why Tom Green had his podcast as well. I remember when I started my podcast company as a producer, it was back in 2015. And it was hilarious when I would try to explain to people what a podcast was, and they would look at me like I was crazy. Like, what do you mean it's on an app? Like, oh, it's on the internet? Oh, lame. And I was like, no, trust me, it's going to catch on. People like the independence. People love the independence. And then thank goodness we have amazing celebrities like, you, Tom Green and Breal, that were also doing it, and it kind of got the flow of it and the word out there.
Well, and Breal, like the reason why their shows like stay around, and Tom Green, like people are genuinely interested in you.
Well, check this out. You take a guess what I don't know if you remember, my mom was on my show a lot. I used to pull pranks on my show on MTV on my mom and dad. You know what my mom's name is? It's the best weed name ever, okay? If you guys ever thought that you wanted to make a weed string after my mom, you have to check this out. Her name is Mary Jane Green.
Mary Jane Green, yeah, that's perfect.
That's my mom's real name.
She should be the patron saint of cannabis.
Absolutely, yeah. So my mom jokes around and says, "Oh, so I don't smoke marijuana, but somebody really should make a weed strain after my name because it's."
I wonder if her parents did that intentionally.
No, probably not, because names probably. Oh, that's so funny, Mary Jane Green.
Well, that's the thing, is because she didn't really realize even what it meant until she started going to, people would look at her credit card at the grocery store and start laughing. And she said, what's going on? So, no, I don't think her parents were big pot smokers.
Well, you never know. Breal has the Dr. Green Thumb dispensary. I don't know if she is still considering having a name.
Mary Jane Green, we could do that all day.
Got to get Mary Jane Green down to LA. We'll come out to the studio and talk about it.
All day.
And what's cool too, Tom Green, you've had such an amazing career as an actor as well, because you've been doing stand-up and also in acting. Out of all your roles, what was your favorite one? You've done so many movies in the 90s and early 2000s that have made people laugh so hard like tears would come out.
Okay, well, thank you. That's very nice of you to say. Listen, I got to make this crazy movie, Freddie Got Fingered. Here's the poster right here, which some people have put it into the category of a stoner movie. I'd say that would make a lot of sense because it's just a really crazy movie. But I got to write that one and direct that one, and we designed it in a way, my friends and I, when we wrote it, when I put it together, to look really insane. So all the scenes in it are completely ridiculous and over the top, and a little bit more over the top than even your average crazy movie, just because it's sort of got a really weird visual style to it. which I love. I love directing, and I love putting visual things together. So it's a very unique movie. This is the first movie I was ever in was called Road Trip. This one here.
I remember that one.
And that was a lot of fun to make too. So those are the two movie posters I have on my wall here in my studio. But Road Trip was amazing because that was directed by Todd Phillips, and that was his first big movie. And then he went over to make all the Hangover movies, and then he just did Joker. So, he's had an incredible career, and it all sort of kind of kicked off, his studio movie career kicked off with making Road Trip. So that was pretty awesome.
Speaking of road trips, obviously you said earlier, you stopped doing the filming for a while and you started getting on the road and doing tours. What's the hardest part about touring for you?
Well, it's interesting. First of all, I think stand-up, it's a little less grueling than with music because you're just one person and you don't have to bring the whole crew and it's real simple. And I don't go out for months at a time. Usually I just go for the weekend and then I come back home. So it's a lot easier, but still I go every weekend or a lot, or sometimes 2 or 3 weekends a month. So I'm gone all the time. So honestly, the thing that's really weird is like I have my recording studio here and I like to do stuff. I have Pro Tools. I work on Pro Tools. Okay.
Yeah.
So Pro Tools is a pretty complicated program, actually. I've always been able to sort of do the basic stuff, but when I'm off on the road, I'm always in my head going, man, I wish I could just spend a couple of months at home and just really figure out how to do the mixing and mastering stuff in Pro Tools, or be home for a while and get into a groove with my life outside of just being in an airport all the time. But I try not to complain about it because I think that, I feel like really lucky to be able to go on the road and tell jokes and get paid to do it and get to interact with all of these amazing people all over the world. I mean, like you, I've been very fortunate to be able to travel around the world doing stand-up. Last year I did a tour in Asia. I did Europe the year before. I did to Israel and Australia and all these places that I never would have gotten to go to. So I love it. I try not to really kind of complain about it too much, like when I get tired or whatever, I try not to find myself complaining about it, because I spent so much time, like as a kid, just dreaming of being able to be a comedian. I just feel like I'd be kind of like selling out a little bit if all of a sudden I was like, oh man, I don't want to go to the airport and tell more jokes this weekend. I'm so tired, So, but I do get tired. It's weird. It's weird being here in this quarantine though. It's the first time in years, maybe in my adult life, where I've ever just been home for this amount of time. And I am finding ways of making positive things happen in the face of all this negative situation by, like I said, I've had my sound engineer has been giving me Pro Tools, like 101 courses. I'm going in like on the phone on FaceTime and really like figuring out some of the, the really detailed mixing and mastering stuff, not to get too into the weeds with this, no pun intended for the out there listening who aren't into making music. I know Breal knows exactly what I'm talking about, but like there's a lot of little stuff that you kind of sometimes that I feel like by the time I get out of my house here, whenever the hell that's going to be, I'm actually going to be like a professional engineer level Pro Tools mixer. So I'm kind of excited about that.
Hey, there's a silver lining.
By the time you finish.
Yeah. It's kind of cool. So that's why I say to everyone people call into my podcast too. And I tell people, I know this sucks right now. We're in a pandemic. We are staying at home. We're not allowed to leave. But try to find something that you could concentrate on, that when this is all over, you look back and go, oh, what did I do with my time? I learned how to play guitar, or I learned how to speak another language, or I read a bunch of books that I never would have had time to read. And then you have that for the rest of your life. So.
Do you feel like after this whole lockdown and quarantine that you'll, like once you start getting back in your groove and whatnot, will you end up taking more time for yourself to like stay home and do the things that you've wanted to do, even regardless of the lockdown?
It's worrisome, because I like doing stand-up, but it's been so fun staying at home. I mean, maybe when they let us out, I might not ever leave the house again, just because it's so much fun to sit at home and eating canned tuna every day,
You never know.
A lot of canned goods.
Yeah.
A lot of canned goods.
Yeah, you never know. Maybe like the Laugh Factory might establish some type of system where comedians like yourself will be performing from home and people will still pay to watch you, but through the comfort of their own home. Sometimes there's always change. And same thing with concerts. You never know, B, you could be having a concert, but people will still pay to watch it. We'll see what happens. This vaccine, they might have a vaccine coming soon. I know not everyone's about that. I'm not going to get into that. But at the end of the day, I do see things getting back to normal, like maybe in next year or so.
I think it's going to be at least a year before.
Exactly, but it will get back.
Things, but
I feel like we want
to answer your question more seriously, because I actually know what you were trying to ask me, and I was sort of gave you a goofy answer. But I do think that this is probably the first time in our lifetime where the entire world has been under this global threat. It might be the first time since the last major pandemic. So I think that it could definitely have a positive impact on the world once it's over. I think maybe people are going to maybe pay a little bit more attention to the world and how fragile the world is, and maybe look out for the environment more, maybe look out for each other more, understand that, maybe it is okay to slow down a little bit. I'm hearing a lot of people starting to say sort of what I just said, where they never really thought that just out of nowhere in 2020, all of a sudden we were just going to put the world on pause, everything on pause. Work is on pause because so many people spend their lives just kind of freaking out all the time, stressing out about work and I know now there's different stresses. People have financial stresses, but it's interesting when everybody stops working at the same time, it sort of takes that rat race away a little bit. You can kind of slow down and think
it can give you perspective if you let it. There's a lot of people realizing that and doing like yourself, taking the time to, do something that they never had a chance to do because they were distracted by the everyday, confines of living their life and going to work and all that stuff. And now we're under this global house arrest, if you will, and you have nothing but time to do those things, like, sort some things out that you put off for a year, or if you're a creative person, do whatever that is. But then there's the bozos who just, they're impatient, don't want to listen to nobody, and they're still out there gathering and not caring about whether, they're symptomatic. And it's crazy to see that. I mean, there's a lot of us that are going to live our lives very different, like you said. We'll be more cautious, we'll be more safe, and we'll be more considerate of others
hand
in terms of our engagements and stuff like that. But it trips me out. His staff is telling people to shelter in place and, don't try to move things along too fast. And here he is talking about liberate your city, meaning, complain about not working and being able to gather. And it's crazy that people just don't get that.
Yeah, it's wild. The internet's such a beautiful thing. We didn't have that when we were growing up, but in some ways it's really thrown so much confusion into the world because, it's great that we all have this outlet and we can get information from so many different sources, but then with so many different sources of information, nobody knows what the hell to believe anymore. Yeah. And so it gets very confusing. So, I and most of my friends and people that are really paying attention and really decide to make an effort to really try to read between the lines of what's coming at them on the internet, you can figure out what's real and you can figure out what to do. But so many people don't know to do that. And then with the algorithms on Facebook and all of the things that are happening on social media where you're getting steered in a direction just based on corporate interests and all this stuff, people don't even know why they believe what they believe anymore. They're just believing something because their Facebook took them down this road, and now they believe, the virus is started in a laboratory. The virus started in bats. The virus started here. Wear a mask. Don't wear a mask. There's so many different things you're hearing. People just choose what to believe, and a lot of people are making the wrong choice. I worry about it too.
Yeah, crazy.
We should all just be careful of the information that we're reading and question it. So many people are jumping the gun and reading these blogs online, Facebook, Instagram, and they are seriously believing everything they read. And they have to remember that these are bloggers. Not all these people that are writing these articles are accredited doctors. They're not chemists. They're
not scientists.
Yes, they're not scientists. So everyone please research what you're reading. It's just what it is. The internet has so many different faces.
And I think it's similar to like the cannabis industry and the aspect of all these people from the past, like telling you like, oh, if you smoke marijuana, then this is going to happen to you and this is going to happen to you, and nobody really having the ability to do research. And now that we have the research and it's all out there online for everybody to do, nobody does it because they just hear and take advice from the first thing that they hear that they think is correct. Like with the whole situation with everything going around about fake cartridges, so many people were so quick to believe that any cartridge is harmful and any cartridge can end up killing you, when in fact it was illegal fake cartridges that were doing that. And but people weren't fully reading in and looking into what the problem was.
And that's another reason why our show is created, to help educate people on the safety of using cartridges, or any, even like besides THC, there's CBD and hemp. You guys can check out greencaresolutions.com, also mj.com, to get further information on how to know what you're consuming is clean, because sometimes you might buy something really cheap and it could have all these cut chemicals in it and it's really bad for you. So really important to do your research.
I just wanted to jump in and say, Be Real, congratulations, by the way, on being on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. That's an incredible thing. You must have been completely made everyone, your friends and family, very proud here in Los Angeles, now being on that iconic sidewalk there. Is that an incredible feeling?
Oh, it was definitely incredible. I mean, it was something that I didn't foresee happening for us. I know we've accomplished a lot in terms of music and whatnot, but, we grew up in Los Angeles. We've been, we've walked down those streets and seen those stars. And if you would have asked me way back, I would never have thought that we'd have one of our own. So it was surreal, but it was definitely awesome. And to see the fans and some of our friends come up to support us that day, it meant a lot for sure.
It's incredible. I find it also just so incredible, like the longevity that you guys have, because you obviously have found a way to just keep at it and keep doing your thing and keeping that music alive, and you're touring your whole brand alive, which is, to me, I know that's that's a very hard thing to do. I mean, I'm thinking back to when I was just heard of you for the first time and I was a fan, and it was 1991 and I was at that show, and all the groups that I was listening to back then, there's very few of them that are, there's a couple, but there's very few of them that have kept that alive like that. So that's just amazing.
In Canada, Be Real, you had how many people there? Like 10,000? Actually, more than that. It was insane.
I mean, Canada's always been a great place for us, so I always look forward to going there when they would allow me in, because there was a time where I was not allowed in. but there's been an incredible connection with us in Canada at any part we go to. And I think, because there's a big contingency of stoners who loved hip hop down there, and people who just love hip hop in general, even if you didn't get stoned, there was something to like about our music, obviously. And we always had some incredible times. I tell you, one of the first times we came down there, or after we had made it a name for ourselves, we go down there on, I believe it was a Lollapalooza show, a Lollapalooza run, and we meet this dude named, his nickname was Sam I Am, and he looked like Ronnie James Dio. You know who that is, right? Tom, yeah. Ronnie James Dio.
Yeah.
Okay, so this dude looks like that guy, and he comes in and he gives us an ounce of mushrooms and an ounce of the greenest, stickiest weed you could find in the area as a gift.
Yeah.
Like, welcome to our city, bro. I brought this for you. And man, it was one of the most crazy experiences that we had, because we took the mushrooms before we went on stage. It was crazy.
How did that work out for you guys?
Oh, it was awesome. It was one of the most.
Didn't forget all your lyrics or anything?
It was interesting. In the middle of the show, we start peaking, and I'm seeing the mosh pit going in real time, and then all of a sudden it slows down, and I could see the trails of people just, like the whirlwind. It was crazy. I don't know how we got through it, but
I remember when I heard your first single, the Funky Feel one, of course your voice was what stuck out for sure. Like the thing that really was so new and innovative was hearing your voice was different. We were rapping different than people were with, but also just I was making beats too. So just talk about the beats for a second, like that drum loop, and then that was it a horn sample? Sample, the way that was all put together was so new at the time, and it was so incredible. It just popped out. And I was listening to Public Enemy, so there's some of those kinds of techniques in there, but this was different. This was different than that too. So I don't want to ask you too many questions here because I want you to come on my podcast and I want to ask you that. But that's one of the questions I did want to ask you right now. Is like what was the genesis of that beat?
Funny you should mention Public Enemy, because they were a big influence to us from every aspect of what they were doing, from the way they made their beats, how they would put bridges and breaks and all these crazy chaotic sounds, but somehow make sense of all of it. We were very big fans of that. And Muggs, who was our producer and DJ, that's sort of how he styled himself, as an out of the box version of that.
Yeah.
And when you listen to what Public Enemy were doing, you had, basically Chuck rapping that heavy baritone and Flav as the hype man sprinkling with the high pitched tone. Right. We did it in reverse. I took the lead with the high pitched tone, and Sen Dog did that baritone type of voice, and he added a different voice on top of that to layer in. So we were basically doing a different version of Public Enemy, just a weeded out, dusted street sort of flavor of what they were doing, as opposed to what they were doing with the political aspects and
I never even thought of that about the two vocal tones and how that sort of relates to PE also. That's really cool.
But Muggs what he wanted to do always was put interesting breaks and bridges in between our verses, because no one else was really doing that except for Public Enemy. And we figured, okay, let's do our version of that. And that's where all that came from.
Nice. That's so cool. I can't wait to have Be Real on Tom Green's show, because I want to watch that so bad, and be so cool to have you guys do like a song together.
The Tom Green podcast. The Tom Green podcast.
Right here at the bottom, guys.
I do it every day, actually. That's what I'm doing up here. But and it goes out on all the podcast platforms. And
nice.
I can't wait to have you call in. You just phone in like this. So.
Nice.
We'll make it happen.
Thank you so much, Tom. I know you have so much going on, and it's amazing that you took time to come on our show. We're going to be sending you some Green Care Solution products as well. And thank you again for everything. Again, guys, this show is brought to you by MJ.com. MJ.com is an online destination platform for all cannabis professionals. Also, check out Jonathan at jonathansellsbeachhomes.com. Give him a call at 310-938-1504. Said you had a cool Prius you wanted to wrap up, but exoticcarwraps.com has some really cool stuff that they do to all cars. And hey, if you guys have a Lamborghini, they can wrap that one up for you too, and your Prius.
Nice. I'll take you up on that.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Please be safe during this pandemic, and everyone that's tuning in, stay tuned for when Be Real is on Tom Green's podcast.
Oh, that's amazing. I can't wait. Be Real. Great talking. Nice to talk to you, ladies, and I appreciate it. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Till next time, everyone. I'm Yenitza Munoz.
It's your girl, Angela Mazzanti.
I'm Be Real, and Tom will be talking soon. Everybody stay safe. Wash your hands. Wear a mask and gloves if you're going to go out. If you don't need to, don't go out until they say go out.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Till next time. And here's a song by Tom Green.
Isolation has me dreaming about you. Isolation has me dreaming about the things that we could do. Wanna go outside, wanna see the sky, wanna hold your hand, wanna be your man. Let's take a drive, wanna feel alive. Looking eye to eye, we can make it if we try. Isolation, isolation has me dreaming about you. Isolation, isolation has me dreaming of the things that we could do. I feel like I'm losing my mind. This can't be real, but we will survive. Gotta take this one day at a time. Isolation, isolation has me dreaming about you. Isolation, isolation has me dreaming of the things that we could do. Isolation, isolation has me dreaming about you. Isolation, isolation has me dreaming of the things that we could do.